Hi, everybody, and welcome to the finale webinar of the year today, in which we'll be featuring VBrochure, which is our visual storytelling platform for hotels. We're going to start off with some new research along with visual storytelling tips to attract more guests. Additionally, I'm really thrilled to have with me today a personality you may be familiar with as he's joined us on other webinars throughout the year. Ron Wallace, who's the Director of Sales and Marketing for Best Western Plus Hotel and Suites in Rockville, Maryland. Ron's going to share his successful online marketing techniques with us today. Welcome, Ron.
Hi there, everyone.
My name is Darlene Rondo, and I am the Vice President, Best Practices for VFM Leonardo's online merchandising group, and I'll be your host for today's event. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First, we'll be recording the webinar, so at the conclusion of today's session, we're going to send you a thank you for joining us email with a link to that recording, which you can share or listen to again at your leisure. Additionally, you have a questions dialog box in your GoToMeeting panel. I see some of you have already found it. As we move through our discussion today, please feel free to send in your questions and we'll address them throughout the webinar as well as at the end of the presentation if we have any time left. You see some arrows on the screen. One points to the audio box in your GoToMeeting panel where you can connect with us using the mic and speakers on your computer or just via the telephone. And then it also points out the questions dialog box. So again, send in your comments and questions as we go. We're also going to be tweeting during today's webinar, so please send in any questions you have or comments to hashtag VFMLwebinar. So before we begin, I want to do a poll of the audience because I want to get your thoughts on this question. What digital marketing topics would you like to hear more about in 2014? And so I'm going to launch the poll. It's going to come up on your screen, and then you can choose from the following answers. How to identify and build my hotel story? How do I leverage social channels and mobile? How do I improve my website? How do I reach more hotel shoppers, or all of the above? So everybody's weighing in. Looks like neck and neck, how to leverage social and mobile in conjunction with how to reach more hotel shoppers. And then a lot of you are also choosing all of the above. And so we have about 50% of the audience who have voted. And so we'll wait till a few more of you have weighed in so we can get a good sense. When we do these types of polls, it really helps us figure out what educational materials to work on for 2014. There are a lot of elements as part of your marketing strategy, and so it really helps us nail down what the majority of the audience is interested in learning more about. So looks like how to reach more hotel shoppers is the number one specific answer, followed by how to leverage social and mobile channels. Okay, well, thanks everybody. We are going to close the poll now. Thanks for weighing in, and we're going to continue with our presentation. So again, I would like to welcome Ron Wallach. Ron has over 20 years of experience learning the inner workings of the hospitality business and helping grow top markets. Ron is currently based at the Best Western Plus Rockville Hotel and Suites, and he's going to share today how he uses VBrochure to target and attract business travelers. We're going to hear from Ron in just a few minutes, but first I want to share some brief research with you and just review the agenda. So what I hope you're going to take away from today's presentation is this: understanding why visual storytelling should be an important part of your hotel marketing strategy. I want you to walk away with understanding how consumers are consuming media these days on both social and mobile. And then, as I mentioned, Ron is going to give us his specific properties perspective on online marketing strategies and how he's using VBrochure, which is our storytelling product. And we're going to talk about how you can implement that storytelling strategy using VBrochure. So let's start with storytelling. It's defined as the interactive art of using words and actions to reveal the elements and images of a story while encouraging the listener's imagination. So it's interactive because it needs both a teller and a listener, and it's the listener's role to actively create the vivid, multisensory image and action that you've inspired. Stories are anecdotes and context that provoke an emotional response. In other words, things that are happening and a reason to care. And it's a combination of pictures and narration and, of course, the audience. Your audience wants to be entertained, informed, and inspired. And when they're inspired, they're going to share. So within the hotel environment, your anecdotes are your experiences, dining, perhaps a historically important room, special events that you may host, the lounge space, the meeting space, and your staff. And then off-site, they're local attractions, entertainment, tours, nightlife, festivals, coffee shops, and don't forget about your community. Context is emotional. Things like excitement, romance, fun, health, adventure, and a sense of accomplishment. And when you combine these two things, the anecdotes and the context, you have your story. From cavemen to traditional forms of communication in the present day online world, storytelling is still a valuable form of human expression. The same objectives in storytelling exist, but over time they've evolved using different platforms and devices. And as they have evolved, so have marketing tools and techniques. So let's fast forward to 2013. Now we're telling stories in 140 characters, sharing opinions with global audiences. And it's not just words and images we're sharing, but increasingly video, Vine and Instagram as an example. And a couple of reasons why videos become so amazingly popular is, number one, consumers have more access to broadband at home and on the go, but also because it's more truthful than words, which can be exaggerated. And of course, it's much more emotional and more engaging of all of our senses. Facebook reports that posts with videos attract 3 times more inbound links than posts with just plain text. We should be leading across all industries in online storytelling, and we're not. So why isn't hospitality leading? Because we have a story that's built in like no other industry does. The consensus is that we've become so focused on structuring content and having images that follow a certain template that we've forgotten about the story that images tell. So what makes a story worthwhile? The same elements that have been used over the ages still hold true today. Good stories have lasting impressions over time because they make you take notice, they compel you to take action like make a booking or write a review, they inspire you to share, and they're memorable. If words alone can invoke interaction and emotion, take any great novel as an example, imagine what happens when they're coupled with rich imagery, much more powerful. If we look at Pinterest, arguably the world's most successful startup, valued at over $3.8 billion last month. The rich images and video require no translation. And here we can learn from A&K's Pinterest page. They've divided the imagery into themes: romance, sunsets, food, which is becoming hugely popular, in sports. These are all experiences that conjure up emotion. So what can you do to improve your guests' shopping journey? Well, start by combining all of your media to engage travelers at all phases of their journey. Source both professional and social imagery to serve up what consumers are looking for. Content is snackable when it's designed for simple and flexible audience consumption. Instagram videos are a good example of snackable content, as are infographics, which every marketer seems to be into these days because they're short and engaging. Really encourage your guests to share their experiences with others and make sure your imagery has share buttons. It seems like a simple thing, but often overlooked. And then don't forget to optimize your visuals with keywords in the HTML meta tags and use hashtags. We at VFM Leonardo power the display of many of the largest hotel brands and travel websites around the world. And our research reveals that of those who visited hotel websites, 86% have viewed 10 or more images per visit. Additional insights reveal that as people go through the different stages of travel, their hunger for content changes, demanding fewer images at certain points and more at others. One thing holds true throughout all of the stages is that they're consuming visuals, and your story needs to be told that way. Here is a list of the top 10 most viewed images. Can you guess which is number one? There it is. Guest rooms are the most viewed. In fact, 2 times more than the second most viewed image, which is your restaurant. But you go to many hotel websites and often you'll see the exterior as the first image, followed by an empty lobby. Exterior shots are actually 9th in the top 10 most viewed. And the fact that restaurants are the second most viewed is really interesting. This tells us that travelers are looking for more than a place to sleep. They're looking for an experience that includes where they'll eat, what they'll find down the road, where they'll shop, and so on. Media consumption is 30% higher on smartphones than desktops, so your visual stories must be available and optimized to be consumed on these devices. And let's talk about that for a second. Hotel marketers shouldn't focus on mobile as a device per se, but rather as one of the multiple channels used during the shopping journey, from the dreaming stage through purchase and post-purchase activity. The context in which the shopper is using the device must also be considered. As an example, today's consumer will watch TV with their smartphone beside them for texting and their tablet on their lap, accessing the mobile web for research, socializing with friends and family, or just checking email. Another element that we need to talk about is the difference between a mobile optimized website and a mobile compatible website. You hear people use these terms interchangeably, but that's not accurate. A mobile website that's optimized is going to render properly, have clarity, along with easy navigation for fingers and thumbs. And it takes advantage of all the device attributes and features like pinch, zoom, portrait, landscape, swiping. And it also uses all of the real estate of the screen. And when you contrast that, the smartphone on the right, which is merely compatible, the website's going to render, but it's not going to have all of the proper navigation features or appropriate use of screen size, making it virtually impossible to read and certainly impossible to make a booking. It's estimated that humans have taken 3.5 trillion pictures since 1926, and 10% of them have been taken in the last year, and a fifth of them live on social media. We heard earlier that Facebook videos generated 3 times more inbound links than plain posts. Well, photos themselves generate 53% more likes than the average post without a photo. I get this question a lot. How much should I budget for search engine optimization or search engine marketing relative to my other marketing initiatives? Well, think of it this way. Search engine optimization or search engine marketing gets them to your digital front door along with your other lead generation activities. But what makes them choose you when they get there? That's why hotels ought to seriously consider balancing your digital marketing initiatives to include storytelling as an important part of your digital marketing strategy, because it really doesn't make much sense to spend the money to get them there only to have empty, uninteresting, and worse, an uninspiring experience waiting for them. So really immerse travel shoppers in a visual story that captivates them in such a gripping way that they'll choose you over your competition. Now, I'm going to reintroduce Ron Wallach. I do want to remind everybody that you can send in your questions in the GoToMeeting dialog box as we go through, and we'll be addressing your questions as we move along. I see many of you have already found that questions dialog box, but just take a moment, locate it on your screen, and then interact with us. It's one of the things that makes a live webinar different from a recorded webinar, is that you have the opportunity to interact and get your specific questions answered. So at this point, I'm going to give you the keyboard and mouse, and let me know if you can take control. Otherwise, I'll move the screens for you.
Yep. Oh, wait a minute. It does not look like it's moving. Why don't you...
Okay, shall do.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay,
Here you go.
Let's go past that one. My name's Ron, and I work for a company called Cogley Williams. We have about 30 hotels of all different brands and a couple independents, and I'm based here right outside of Washington, D.C. What I'm going to do is I'd like to talk about what an individual property can do and how we can take some of the things that Darlene was talking about and really implement it on the property level. First, obviously, you have to define your story. What amenities sell, what's the benefit to each amenity, and whatnot. I recommend you literally just start with a clean slate. Just don't worry about how to put the pictures into the system. That will come later. But really figure out your content, and that could be in a Word document to get the scripting right for each picture. And then again, we'll see how that interfaces with all the other online platforms. So let's move forward.
There you go.
Okay, this is an example of our actual website, and if you click on the far right on the photos, you don't have to click on that. This is what you'll see. You'll see our VScape. So the nice thing about VScape, and honestly, I don't get paid by them. VFM doesn't do anything to line my pockets, but I really like the product, perhaps because I'm lazy, and I find it incredibly easy to take care of a lot of my needs at one time.
Hey, Ron, John has an interesting question, and we'll tee it up now because I think it's sort of an overarching question. He wants to know, is it better to run a coherent marketing plan on all the media sources at the same time? So should you run the marketing campaign on all of the outlets and all the channels at the same time? What do you think about that, Ron?
That's a good question. I think it depends on, as a general rule, I would say yes, as long as the audience, you know what the audience is looking at. If you're putting together something for, brides and weddings, well, if you know for a fact that one of your campaign modules is really geared towards corporate travelers, and the viewers of that, the audience are corporate travelers, then you might want to say, well, I might not want to do that. So I think if you look at all the campaigns and kind of get a better handle on who's there, then you'll determine whether what you want to use. But as a general rule, I would say yes, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I would agree. Strictly from a marketer's perspective, it's much more powerful if the consumers see a consistent message across all of the different outlets that you're using. It really, because one of the tenets of marketing is about frequency, right? So the more they see the same thing over and over again, the more likely it's going to stick in their heads.
Exactly, and it also is, they'll see it at various things. Like if you work with the OTA, the online travel agents, and they see that same photo on Expedia, on Hotels.com, and Bookit.com and Booking.com, they'll say, hey, that hotel is everywhere. I think maybe I should work with them. I should stay with them rather. So that's something to think about. Also, when it comes to, just using as an example, blast emails. If you do blast emails, I recommend you do. They do work, believe it or not. But you want to really kind of think through the whole program. For example, statistics show that Tuesday morning is the best time to do a blast email. But again, if you're sending to brides or people for bar and bat mitzvahs, I usually send those out at like 7 o'clock at night when parents or brides are at home and checking their email. Well, then now they check it all the time, but in theory they'll be able to spend more time on it. So that, business people get theirs at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Non-business people who really have to react to it on their own time get it in the evening. Okay, this is what the Vscape looks like. The nice thing about this is, as Darlene said, various pictures are viewed more frequently. What I like about the Vscape is it's interactive. If you want to look at sleeping rooms, you can click on accommodations. If you want to look at dining, you click on dining and so forth. And the way it's set up is the photos are there, and then there's a lot of content that you can, obviously people won't read through things, so I recommend you don't make things too wordy with the content. But I do recommend you put some good content in there. Maybe if it's a guest room bullet form, might be good, to just a list of the amenities so people can get a feel for it.
Yeah, good point, Ron. What we know from best practices with the copy that matches the images is that things like bolding certain words, bullets are always good use, because people online don't spend a great deal of time reading word for word. They have a tendency to browse through things quite quickly. So important to know that. Veronique has a really excellent question, and we'll get your take on it. She wants to know, if everybody's using VBrochure, how do you stand out from your competitors if they too are using VBrochure? So how would you use for your Best Western Plus in Rockville? If all the hotels that you compete with are using VBrochure, how do you use it to gain an edge?
Wow, that is I've been on a fair amount of these webinars, and that's a really good question.
I know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing. A lot of people use VBrochure, especially if their brand uses it. For example, Best Western, we don't have to use Vscape, but we use VBrochure to load up pictures to bestwestern.com. So we've chosen to go with them for our own stuff, our own thing, like so our own website and our Facebook and all that. But what I noticed is, while a lot of people might use Vscape, they don't use it to its full ability. They might have a few pictures, but they might not have the content there. And you'll see in a few later slides, a lot of people just put the pictures of things they know they have. But the one thing that people miss is, and I know it sounds really silly, but if you're an airport hotel or a suburban hotel that has a shuttle service, actually have a picture of the van. Now, people don't have to say, well, let me kick the tires and make sure this is a nice new van. But what they do is they subconsciously say, oh, yeah, they've got a shuttle. That's great. Or a picture of a breakfast to showcase your free breakfast, not just clicking on the restaurant and seeing it. Also one, and we'll see it in just a few minutes, is a picture of a keyboard, just a generic shot of a keyboard. And if you notice on the screen there where it says, let's say Dulles Airport on the one on the bottom right, it says Dulles Airport. Well, we could have the subheading be, instead of Dulles Airport, we could say free breakfast or internet. So we don't say, okay, this is what breakfast looks like, but pushing the amenity that people really want to hear about. And also, some hotels do this. They put every picture under the sun in there. It's great to use all your pictures, use all the spaces you have, but I find when I'm looking at hotel shots, sometimes I'll say, okay, that's a picture of a double-bedded room. I click, oh, that's another view of the double-bedded room. Oh, that's yet another view. I find it easier to have one or two shots of a room at the most, and then go on to the next thing so people see something new. Also, if you can be creative or whimsical, and you'll see that in a moment on how we do it, that helps too. Another thing we do is on our virtual tours, we jokingly have the phrase, take us for a spin. And of course, that's a take on the fact that people spin around the picture with their mouse. We're a very relaxed, casual brand, and we're number one with leisure travelers. So we can get away with that. Maybe a five-star might not be able to do that. But a nice thing is, this is so important. It's so important to show your property online in the best possible way, no matter whether you're a select service or a full service. And I think sometimes it's even more important for hotels. Like for us, we happen to be a Best Western Plus, and there's getting some traction on our new descriptors, Best Western Plus, and Best Western Premier. So we want to showcase that, and we can do that through Vscape.
Excellent.
Okay. when we amplify the story by, as we mentioned, by using different platforms. Here's an example of on Facebook, where you see the little button for a tour and for rooms. Those are actually Vscape apps, and your success consultant, I forget the exact title of the person at VFM who gets you all set up, can help you, walk you through that, and in no time at all they can get some your stuff up and running, and they're really powerful tools. And of course they all lead to a book now button, and that's so crucial that your call to action is included.
And Ron, at the end, and for those of you in the audience, at the end I'm going to review the components of the VBrochure license. So if you're interested in learning more about the elements of the product, stick around to the end and I'll review those.
Also, while we're there, if we could go back for just 1 second.
Yeah.
There's the old phrase that people love to buy but hate being sold to. So when you're posting on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Flickr or Pinterest, obviously you don't want to be too silly. The latest picture, when this screen capture was done, is a picture of what's her name, of Alice in Wonderland. What I do is I actually go to the History Channel website. I have that bookmarked, and I can find out fun things about this day in history. And as Darlene said, it's so important to have a picture. So if you're talking about something that's not related to your hotel at all, you can easily grab a picture for use and throw it in there. One we did, which was we got great response, as silly as it was. We noticed that the one year in 1955 was the first year that the Corvette came out, and the first year 300 models were made. So we just said, hey, this day in history, the Corvette was made. The first year had 300 cars were made. Fun fact, we have enough free parking for every car made that year. So you can kind of, and that's a little maybe heavy-handed, but it's so heavy-handed it's kind of funny, and people usually get a chuckle out of it. So if you're going to do a sell thing and be heavy-handed, be really heavy-handed so they know you're in on the joke.
And we're going to talk more about social in a minute, but I think you make a good point in that these are social channels. People expect, you know, a bit of wit and a bit of humor, and it's not a serious medium. And so it's important, if you yourself don't have that skill, you know, ask your employees, check around the hotel. I bet you'll find someone who, you know, loves to do that kind of stuff and has some fun, interesting ideas that you can use.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, on Cyber Monday, we posted something on Facebook saying, hey, you're at work. What are you doing on your computer? Happy Cyber Monday, something like that.
Yeah.
And actually, we got a fair amount of people emailing us back or noting us back saying, oh, man, that was hysterical.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. This is another example of what we can use the Vscape for. We at this hotel put together a PDF of a booking engine flyer where we send to our client and they can forward out to the bookers. And then what you see there is everybody has a website and everyone directs everyone to a website. Somebody booking doesn't really have time for that. So the little link below that is to be, and you can click again there. So make it a little bigger for you to see. It says to view images of the hotel, click here. And that goes right to our Vscape. So if somebody just wants to see what a sleeping room looks like, they don't have to go to a website. They don't have time to go to a website, but if they want to see a few pictures, sometimes that's all they want to see. And if you can promote that and send them to somewhere that doesn't have all the content but has all the pictures, it's great. And again, here's an example you can see we used as the free shuttle, free internet, free breakfast. Believe it or not, those are the things that people note about us on TripAdvisor and on Expedia as things they liked about us, and we realized, you know what, they're our biggest amenity, if you will, and not always mentioned. So if you notice how we wrote, rather than we wrote there free breakfast and free internet, so people are not even looking at the pictures and they go past that. They're not looking at a row of pictures of the hotel, but they're actually looking at a bulleted list of amenities in picture fashion. So that's one way to answer that question of how to maybe stand out a little more.
Great.
Okay.
Here's Pinterest.
Pinterest. The reason I asked if we could add our Pinterest as well is many times people think only a luxury hotel or only a major destination like Disney can have get away with Pinterest and Instagram and Flickr because, you know, they're sizzle hotels and sizzle locations. Every pot has its lid, and we've got our customer base, and they want to see what we look like just as much. So This is just an example of how a select service hotel can put their information on Pinterest. Also, a couple notes about Pinterest. Make sure you put at least 5 photos in every folder or every group, because that way you'll see it will look a lot cleaner and complete, because you'll have one picture will be the main pictures you see there, and then 4 pictures or more if they're there, but the 4 pictures will be shown there. And you can break it down based on however you want. You can break it down by market segment. We've been toying with that, adding a section for tour and travel, or adding a section for corporate traveler. We actually did add a section, which you can't see on this, for keeping fit, exercising, where we could say how important it is to, for people to keep their regimen up while they travel, and then we kind of casually mention our fitness center, our pool, and our, where people can jog in the area. Also, something to notice about this is the names are shortened enough that they don't go longer than the space you have. So some hotels with a really long title might not want to have their hotel name under the guest rooms and suites, because it won't fit. It will go off with ... and it doesn't look as clean. Also, on every picture, you have 500 characters to make a statement. And I am surprised whenever I go onto Pinterest to see how many hotels or any businesses who don't even use it. They might say double-bedded room. Ours say things like, when looking for hotels in Rockville, look no further. Well, guess what? When people go in Pinterest and search the words hotels in Rockville, we literally are, of the 15 hotels in Rockville, we're the only hotel that comes up, because and there's one hotel in Rockville, New York that comes up because of a keyword search. But use those words. As a matter of fact, if you check for weddings in Rockville, we are the only hotel, because we had things, and wedding gowns. If you look at that, we're the only hotel. And it's amazing that hotels don't do that. And you don't have to be a 5-star to really get the messaging out there and get ahead of the pack.
Excellent.
Okay. This is just another shot of our website. Again, we're pushing people to the website. And the nice thing about the Vscape is when you change it one place, it changes your photos everywhere. So let's go to the next shot. Mm-hmm. And again, I think we talked about this ad nauseum, yeah. But we can see, again, granted we happen to have a brand new shuttle, and it is handicapped accessible. But we're only showing it to just remind people, yeah, we have a shuttle, because we get that mentioned so often in positive comments back. Mm-hmm. Okay, over here we can see if you look on the bottom, what's highlighted here is meetings and events, so we're there. The nice thing here, again, you can create your tabs to be whatever you want. So if you want to create a wedding tab, you can do that. And obviously you might even use some pictures more than once in different areas. So you can create those tabs as much as you like. And then also, let's go on to the next one. We also give fun comments on, statements. Again, it keeps people reading. Go wild. This is actually talking about the National Zoo being so close to us. Also with Best Western, because they integrate their tabs into ours. So we didn't even do this promotion or government meeting planning rate, this promotion page. But guess what? It happened for us to be even better. If you notice, the government and military has a picture of the Capitol, where we're just 12 miles from Washington, D.C. Just luck of the draw that this happened to fit in so smoothly. But this you'll see on every single Best Western. Also, it integrates into TripAdvisor. So if people are looking at TripAdvisor, and TripAdvisor by far is the #1 social media site where people read reviews. And when they read reviews, they might also want to do a call to action, look at the hotels. They can actually even book there too. And we actually have a discount on TripAdvisor that people can click on. But as you can see, the same exact picture. So you change it one place, it changes everywhere.
And Ron, Alex has a question here relative to OTAs, and he wants to know sort of what your strategy is for displaying media on the OTAs. What are your thoughts on just the topic of OTAs?
Wow, it really is a good question Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a really good question, Alex. Well, first of all, you want good pictures, you want professional pictures, and if you can't afford to have them done by a professional, find the money and do it. There's nothing, I'd almost say it's almost better not to have a photo than have a photo that looks horrible, because if the picture's not professional, what I call CS pictures, jokingly, that's crime scene, where it looks like it was done by police, where they just want to get a picture of it so they can throw it in the evidence file. But you want it to look good and show the room at its best possible way. But for OTAs in particular, this actually is a rather old slide, because we're all learning. And one thing I don't put on there anymore is the third slide over. And I don't know if anyone can guess why. You probably can't really see it, but in that picture, on the bottom is our website, because our sign outside, our GM just loves that picture for one reason. But the challenge is our website is on that, and you have to be sure your website is not listed on any photos, or the OTAs will knock it out, because clearly they don't want to drive business away from them and to your website. As a matter of fact, our video, which is the first photo there, when I was putting together our video and I was working with our vendor, I was like, oh no, you don't have our website on long enough, make it longer. And they did, and then when I realized, I'm like, oh, what was I thinking? All right, then I called them back, take it off. And after they took it off, that would actually be grabbed up by some of the OTAs. And also the nice thing is, VScape, and again, I sound like an ad, I really am not, but they push everything out. And I assist with e-commerce for our sister properties, and some of them that opt not to go with VFM, because sadly there are some cheaper things out there, they're going crazy, because they're calling me saying, how do we get this on Expedia or Hotels.com? None of this was picked up by the vendor we use. I'm like, yeah, I kind of mentioned that when we went over the bids.
Yeah. Just a thought on online travel agencies. We know that shopper behavior says, and Google released this earlier this year, that travel shopper will visit upwards of 20 sites during the stages of their shopping journey. And so to your point before, it's really important that the consumer, wherever and whenever they're shopping for travel, they see the consistent presentation of your hotel. They may not book on the OTA, and in all likelihood, all the research says that they are going to come back and book with you, but they are going to see you on those other channels, and you want to give them that confidence that they're going to get what it is they're looking at.
Yeah, and also, Alex, what you might want to do, and again, I think these are older screen captures. What we added was we added a picture of the guest room to be the first picture in the hotel section. So that way, that will be the first picture that will show in the OTAs. Because if you have the exterior shot, usually the first picture on your in your first tab is what shows first in the OTAs. So if you want that to be a picture of a bedroom, make that your first shot, even though it, I think the reason people traditionally do exterior lobby than bedroom is they kind of walk through it like a guest would, but that might not always be the way to go. And again, that's the nice thing about the tabs. And also, VFM has different viewers, so if you want a viewer that goes picture by picture instead of with the tabs, you can do that too.
Here we are, Facebook, an expanded view of what we looked at a few minutes ago.
Yeah, and what you can, one thing to note about Facebook is obviously make sure you have a like page, a professional page versus a friends page. And if you haven't created a Facebook, do it immediately. Even if you're not going to put it together yet, grab the name before someone else does. Also, set up a Gmail account that you can use to log in. Be careful not to put that, excuse me, under a person's email, because when that person leaves, or the old getting hit by a bus, or gets promoted out, you no longer have that, and you have to start from scratch, which is horrible. So make sure you set that up, that you've got an email at the very minimum, that it's an email at your hotel with your domain in there, so you could keep it when the person leaves. But you are allowed 12 tabs there, and as you can see, the colorful ones, tour, rooms, meeting, special offer, are all done by VScape. So take advantage of all that real estate. We added Pinterest and TripAdvisor and Twitter as ones that you can choose from. The likes is automatically there, photos is automatically there, and so is the map. Also, you can change the order. We put Twitter up on the top because we wanted to try to get more people following us on Twitter. That doesn't really work. And what we're probably going to do is switch it back to TripAdvisor. We get really good reviews on TripAdvisor. So you have that first because people only see the first 4 before they expand it. And lots of times they want to expand it. 2 other real quick points. You have 2 pictures that are really crucial. One is the smaller profile picture. Most people say use a logo, and I agree with that. But I do think I love our brand, Best Western, but sometimes that does get lost in the shuffle. So I have to go with a night shot. And then the other photo on the top there, that picture can be changed. It's recommended that you do change that regularly. We've kept this one here for a while because we are not your traditional Best Western. We have 5,000 square feet of meeting space. So we actually picked a picture that would showcase that we are a full-service hotel, just because subconsciously people might think Best Western more for leisure, but we want to turn that on its head.
Yeah, those are excellent points, Ron.
Okay. Callaway's is our restaurant, and when we changed the name of the restaurant and got new pictures, I'm just using this as an example because it's so good. It's like, oh my God, we got new pictures of the restaurant. Now we got to put them everywhere. Well, we just put them in Vscape, and then it went right to the brand site because VFM is connected to VBrochure.com, goes to our own site, goes to Facebook, also goes to the mobile site. And also, talking about the mobile site, if I may, for just a moment, Darlene was right about the optimization versus compatibility. It is so important to be, even more now than ever before. People used to say that people view on the mobile site but still buy online or by calling, and that's even starting to take a shift. If you think back about 10 years ago with websites, they used to say people look on the website but call to book. So it's really important that the booking engine is there and it's easy to see things on there. Also, it's really crucial to have a phone number there because one of the things people do with the mobile is, especially for walk-ins, they'll find a hotel that's close by and they'll click on it, and when they click on it, they're driving. So that instead of booking on the mobile site, they'll hit the number and call and make a reservation. So that's really important to have there, as well as obviously the pictures. And also, it looks like an app. These days, people are so used to working with apps. When they get a regular site that will be found on Safari or Google's app or whatnot, they're really confused. Like, why is this looking so horrible? They don't even get the fact that, oh yeah, it's not an app. But this looks and walks and talks like an app. As a matter of fact, you can take the URL to your website and put it in a QR code at the desk and say, don't forget to take us with you. We have that, and we've gotten more people grab our site. Okay. Just some uses of Vscape. Obviously, proposals. We can have links to proposals. We actually work with a company called Sendine. If you're a Best Western product, you know it as eLeads. If you want to buy the upgraded version, you can with them, and I would recommend you have links to your Vscape on there. If you are doing really basic proposals, even if they're in Word, obviously you want to convert them into a PDF, but again, have links on there as well. And Sports Team is just an example of that. Also, prospecting, it's a nice thing to have on the bottom of your signature. And of course,
Ron, here's a question from Gary. He wants to know, can you expand more on the Sports Team inquiries, how you respond?
Oh, yeah, that was actually just put there as an example, but we always, our proposals, and again, can we ask, who was it, Gary, was it?
Gary, yeah.
What brand he's with, or if he's with a brand?
Yeah, let's see if he'll chime in on that.
You could just write that. If not, it's okay.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Well, what we do for sports teams, obviously, I believe that every market is pretty much the same, but also every market is very different. So you want to go through the same sales approach. Call, qualify, find out wants and needs, and then put the proposal together. But with any proposal, we have our VBrochure as a link. Also, what we do is we have, if we do, say, for corporate proposals, we pull their logo off the website and put it on the top so it looks great. And then for sports teams, our proposal, we have a variety of different pictures. Generic logos is what I call them, and that might be a picture of various different sports, so we can add that. If we know it's hockey, we'll have a hockey picture. If we know it's soccer, we'll have a soccer picture. If we know that, if we're not sure what sport it is and we just got it from a client who doesn't want to divulge that just yet, then we have a generic multiple picture. We have the same thing for reunions, for weddings, also even GLBT weddings, 2 grooms or two brides. Obviously gives a quick comfort level with the hotel.
Yeah. And before we move to the next slide, Patty wants to know who at your hotel maintains all of your social pages?
Actually, I do, because that way salespeople can sell. But it actually doesn't take all that much time. I post something once. There's also Hootsuite you can get into, and then you can set up posts for certain times and whatnot. I kind of do it the old-fashioned way. I haven't really gotten into Hootsuite yet, which I really should. It's on my to-do list for about 6 months now. Keeps crawling closer and closer to the top. But what I do is I just grab something, throw it out there, and it's pretty easy. And again, changing in one spot makes it easier for photos, and you just have to kind of get in the mindset. Okay, I'm going to do this. Also, if you're using Twitter, but you don't have a lot of followers, and you kind of think, well, I don't know if I should do it. I think it's important to get these, get Twitter, and even if you don't use it too much or have a lot of followers, what you can do is you can set your Facebook to automatically post to Twitter. So you only have to post one time, but it still kind of keeps your Twitter feed moving, which is nice. Also with Twitter, the first thing you should do is tweet out 6 pictures, or I think it's 6 or 9 pictures. So on the left side, those pictures will show if somebody's looking at your Twitter from on a computer versus a handheld.
No, that's great advice, Ron. And with the redesign of Twitter, right, the ability to add photos, it's become much more visual. It's looking more and more like Facebook. And Patty also has another follow-up question to that. She wants to know how you keep your hotel relevant on Twitter.
I don't really use Twitter as much as Facebook, so let's replace the word for Facebook, and you could probably do the same things. You know what? The relevance is not as hard as getting the likes. I have been to so many social media 101 classes. I wish somebody would do a 102 and take it to the next level, because if I had a dime for every time someone said, well, make a card and have it at the desk.
Yeah.
It's a little more than that. One thing we do to keep relevant is, and this is maybe cheating just a little bit, we have 30 hotels, so we make sure that our hotels are all liking each other, and we look at things and click on like. And if you get the more likes you get, the more relevant you become. So that's one way to do it. I've got deals with our sister DOSs. I'll like everything you say if you like everything I say.
Right.
So that helps too. But going back to the card, I was kind of half joking on that. But what you can do is that, again, let's say you have a shuttle, if you're an airport or a suburban with a shuttle, we have a card that was designed. The goal of it was to just be, here's the phone number, the cell phone for the driver. So when you need a ride back, just give them a call directly. Well, we also had in there the Twitter and Facebook to get followers there, and we have it pushed, and that helps a little bit. We sometimes put them in the breakfast room and things like that. And also another way to get relevant, to get more likes, is to take out a couple ads on Facebook. They're really easy to do. We only have about 650 likes, not a lot. But when we first started, a few months, about 6 months after we started, we started taking out ads. For $100, we got an additional 100 or 200 people to like us. Also, as Darlene said, another way to keep you relevant is the hashtags. And that's incredibly easy to do. And you can take, obviously, what's trending and just write a sentence and just put a hashtag before something. The National Christmas Tree here in Washington was a big thing last Friday, so I put, hey, the hashtag National Christmas Tree is going up tomorrow. I think I'll take our free shuttle to the metro and check it out. So I put a little amenity in there, but also got linked on there. Also, Oprah had an anniversary of the time she gave out all the cars. So I put, I can't believe this, it's 6 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever it was, years ago, since hashtag Oprah gave all those free cars to everyone. And I went to check the trending. We were number 2 after Oprah and Oprah's magazine on, if anyone's searching the word Oprah. Now that has nothing to do with hotels, but it got us people that wouldn't traditionally look at us, and a few likes. Another way to get likes is to do contests. If you have blast emails, you can have a like us for a chance to win a weekend at the hotel. And what I do is I say, all you have to do is go to our Facebook, like us, and write, I want to win. And that got people posting, I want to win in the Facebook. And again, more posts means more relevant.
Mm-hmm. Excellent guidance for the folks on the webinar, Ron. Thanks. And the results, you want to talk about those for a minute?
Oh, yeah. The results are clear. I mean, some things are hard to track, and we get that. But I know for a fact, just managing all the content, because there is so much out there. And I've been in hotel sales for about 30 years, and it's changed so dramatically. And I jokingly say I don't think I have the time to be any more productive because there's just so much to do. So the efficiency is an e-ticket right there. But also the fact that we know we're getting more likes, and we know we're getting not a ton, but we're getting actually bookings from Facebook. What I did was I created a URL, facebook.bestwesternplusrockwell.com, and I put that in there for the 15% off, so we can track who books from Facebook. We do the same thing with TripAdvisor. We do the same thing with Twitter, and Facebook and TripAdvisor have actually brought in rooms, not just social media, but actual dollars. A lot of dollars? No, not really. I look at it as this is what a phone number or a fax number was 20 years ago. It's easy to have a phone number, but promoting it so people will call is the trick. So it's easy to have a Facebook account, but making it engaging so people will get on there and buy. That's the trick.
Excellent. Well, Ron, judging from all the questions that coming in as usual, very, very informative guidance for the audience. They truly appreciated it. And just to sort of wrap this up to what we've been talking about this morning, the first thing is source your content. Leverage all of your media, your photos, virtual tours, and videos. And understand that there are three categories of content today. There's the owned content, which is what you've created. Then there's the earned content, which is what your guests contribute in posts and shared photos and videos, things like that. And then there's the paid content, like Ron talked about, the sponsored ads. And then the next thing you do is you need to save it and organize the content. So once you decide what story or stories you want to tell, you pull it together using both imagery and rich descriptive text. And often it's better to produce a series of shorter stories versus one big, more time-consuming epic. And then you have to publish the story, right? So put it into a template for all the channels that you want to deliver it to, whether that's your website, third-party channels, or social media channels, and then also consider the devices that the consumers are going to use to access those stories. And then lastly, and perhaps this is the most important step, you really need to amplify the story or syndicate it and share it with hotel shoppers where and when they're shopping for travel. So in closing, I want to do one last poll, and we'd like to understand how valuable you thought today's content was, and would you, based on what you heard today, attend another webinar in the future on a different topic? This is the last webinar for 2013, and we have a whole schedule of webinars for 2014 on a lot of different topics. So, and as I said at the beginning, we did that poll where I asked you what you're most interested in. We'll use your feedback to develop those topics for 2014. And unless Ron wins the lottery between now and then, I'm sure he'll be back to join us on another webinar as well.
So, actually, if I could make just a closing comment here.
Yeah.
For those of you, and again, I don't know how many of you are doing how much in social media, but if you're just starting out and it seems overwhelming, it's not that bad. And what I would do is I would write a list of the ones that, the social medias that you want to get involved in, and just do them, knock them out one at a time rather than go for trying to do a little of all and not getting any of them done. And the ones I recommend, obviously Facebook, you kind of almost need that. Twitter, again, is very easy. You don't have to really do much to that if you have it forwarded from Facebook. Google Plus is starting to grow a little bit. So with Google Plus, all you have to do is make sure you have a generic Gmail account. You'll need a Gmail address to set up Google Plus. But set that up, at least grab your ownership of your page, and you can add photos there. And if you want to look at ours, you can just go to Google Plus. Our Google Plus is right in there, you can't miss it. Also, Pinterest. What I like about Pinterest is it's kind of like the Ronco cooker. Set it and forget it. You really don't. People don't really interact on Pinterest as they do on Twitter and Facebook. So the nice thing is you can get your photos up there and kind of leave it there. Yelp, and then YouTube if you have a video, and then also make sure Google Maps is on your all your information so people can click on it and get directions to your hotel. Also, using these logos throughout your website and on your signature will help out too. Also, there's something called Revinate. If you don't have something to pull all your social media content management together, reputation management, you might want to look at that, because that's an easy way to pull all the what people are talking about your hotel together and responding easily.
Excellent. A number of you have chatted and asked for a little bit more information on VBrochure. I'm going to share contact information with you on the next slide for both us and Ron. But just as an overview, while we help more than 100,000 hotels around the world syndicate their photos to the entire network that I just showed you, what we're really focused on, and I talked about storytelling, is providing hotels with a storytelling platform that we call VBrochure. And here are the components of VBrochure on the screen. You've heard Ron talk about how he uses it. Vscape is the digital asset management system, the software that you use to manage all of this. You have the entire vNetwork, which consists of all the online travel agencies, the traditional channels, the destination sites, the review sites like TripAdvisor. That's the network. There's an analytics module that comes with the software, and the player that Ron showed you many examples of for his Best Western Plus, that customizable player that you can syndicate out to. And then as well, there's a mobile solution that's included in the license, as well as the Facebook suite of apps. So I really thank everyone for joining us today. We have a lot of educational material on our websites. As I said, we do a lot of webinars. We have ebooks, which we just released one, How to Plan for 2014. I think you'll find that interesting. We do a lot of blogging, and again, it's all very educational in nature. And many of you have asked, we are going to send a recording of the webinar to you after today with a link to that recording. Here's Ron's contact information. Several of you have asked to get in touch, Ron, so I think you can expect some of the folks on today's webinar to be reaching out to you. And here's our contact information if you'd like to give us a call or send us an email if you'd like more information on online marketing best practices and VBrochure specifically. So Ron,
feel free to like us on Facebook. I set a personal goal to hit 1,000 by the end of the year, and we're a couple hundred to 300 short. So we would would love for you to like us. We love
that's not a lot to ask in exchange for all the valuable information I think you gave everybody today. So I hope you reach that goal, Ron. And as always, thank you very much for joining us. You're always a great speaker, and several of you in the audience, Ron, have specifically commented that it was really good to have an actual hotelier who understands and gets it to share your specific information. So thanks again.
You're very welcome. Good luck, everyone, and reach out to either of us. We'd be happy to help you.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. See you in the new year.
Take
Have a
care.
good holiday season. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays, everyone.